Good morning, everybody, or it's actually very close to lunchtime here in Australia. I'm here with the fabulous Freya Dawson, and I say fabulous not flippantly, but quite genuinely. I've known Freya now for, best part of 2 decades, and I met her through a homeschooling group in the Illawarra on the New South Wales coast. Our sons are of a similar age, and I discovered this fabulous skill that Freya has, and she has gone on, quite independent of me knowing all of this, to create a parent coaching service, both now coming online, I believe, and she's been doing them face-to-face for a number of years, and I have participated in a number of those workshops, and she's also written a book called Joyful Parenting. Freya has the incredible ability of just cutting straight to the chase when it comes to, particularly when I've had issues that I've been dealing with in my parenting journey, because it can be really tough some days. And Freya is able to get straight to the point and help me discover what it is that I'm holding on to that's making it feel uncomfortable and like it's an issue. So that can be uncomfortable in itself, but the growth that comes from that has certainly led to a much more peaceful parenting journey. And I know that many of you now are facing the challenge of having your children coming home, being in a completely new and uncertain circumstance, which increases our stress level, and therefore how complicated and difficult parenting can feel at that time. So Freya's here to share some of her wisdom. So now that I've had a ramble and told you how wonderful I think she is, I'm going to hand over to Freya to introduce herself, to let us know what she would like us to know about her and what she's bringing and has been bringing to the world. So welcome, Freya, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for your lovely introduction.
You're welcome. I just speak the truth. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Freya, and what it is that you bring to the world and what you think it is that you bring that can really help a lot of parents and what they're experiencing at the moment.
Well, I guess what I'd really like people to know is that out of fairly extreme circumstances, you can actually come out the other side in a much, much better place than when you started. And I can say that from experience because I've been through some pretty extreme circumstances, and they were like the catalyst for me to really discover things within myself that I had no idea about, and that have really, really changed my life. So I'm not a parenting expert. I'm not a psychologist. You know, I don't have any of those type of qualifications. In fact, I'm extremely highly qualified in just about everything else except parenting. I've got multiple degrees, you know, I was an academic, but when I became a parent, I was completely clueless, you know, absolutely knew nothing, really out of my depth. And then I got these two gorgeous boys came into my life, and all hell just broke loose, you know.
Doesn't it though?
All hell broke loose. And it was just hugely challenging, you know, right from the start. And I suppose hugely challenging in two main ways. One was that these children were intensely spirited and strong-willed and just wouldn't be told what to do at all. So that was one aspect, but the other was there was just this sort of explosion of intense emotion, you know, hugely intense outbursts, often daily, and I suspect lots of people are actually experiencing this, you know, right now. I got overwhelmed by this, you know, 18 years ago when when it just sort of came bursting out of my eldest child. Extreme rage, extreme fear, night terrors, all sorts of really intense emotions, because he was obviously very highly sensitive. And it just flowed through him, all these very, very intense feelings, but it was way off the radar of anything I'd ever had to deal with before, and sort of uncorked all this intense emotion within me as well. So having, come from being a really pretty controlled, sort of intellectual, good girl type, now I was just in this sea of intense emotion every day, and I just didn't know which way was up. It was just completely overwhelming. I was stressed, I was exhausted, I was anxious, because I just didn't know how I was going to cope with this intense emotional situation. And that's why it was so challenging, and it required something of a really radical shift for me. It was like something had to really radically change, otherwise I was just going to go under. It was just so overwhelming. And there was a really radical shift, and it was a shift away from trying to fix everything out there, to try and fix the kids, control them, fix the problems, trying to manage it all and control it all out there. There was a radical shift inwards towards trying to find the inner calm within myself, and to try and find the calm center that would allow me to be like the eye of the storm.
What was the turning point for you, Freya? What was the turning point for you that kind of where you sort of finally got to the point where you stopped and you went, this isn't working, I need to do something else? What did that look like?
Well, what it looked like was a period when my eldest son was experiencing these really intense rages. So they were happening multiple times a day, where he would just flip. He would be absolutely delightful one minute, and then he'd be triggered into this intense crying, screaming, attacking. He would be trying to attack me physically, and it was just really, really full on. And at times I feared for my own safety. So it was like this really super intense emotion, and I had to work out a way of dealing with it that wasn't going to escalate it, because his emotion would trigger my emotion, I would react, and then it's just like adding fuel to the fire. Yeah. So every time I reacted to him in my fear or in my trying to stop it or, control it or whatever, that just made it worse. So me trying to fix the child or fix the problem was making it worse. I had to find another way of doing it. And I discovered the solution really by reading Eckhart Tolle, whose books really just changed my whole direction. He was part of that radical shift. He's a spiritual teacher. He doesn't talk specifically about parenting, but he does talk about finding presence. And it was reading about that and his techniques for experiencing presence that really changed things. So I discovered in the heat of this extreme situation that it was actually the perfect time to discover the calm within myself. So when my son was literally attacking me, trying to kill me almost, he obviously wasn't succeeding because he wasn't that big, but, this really intense situation, I would turn within and focus on the aliveness within my body and the energy within my body, and just sort of breathe and actually find presence, find a way to connect with this calm within myself, so that I could listen to my son. I could actually take whatever actions were necessary to deal with the situation, but I wasn't reacting. I was able to just hold the space for him and let all that emotion pass and let it go without judgment, without my reaction. And it was amazing. It
How
was
did
an
that feel for you?
incredible discovery.
How did that feel for you when you suddenly realised that that power was within you to maintain that calm and witness rather than participate in? How did that feel?
It's a little bit like the calm you can tap into in other sort of extreme situations, like, you know, when you're giving birth, for example, or, you know, if there's an accident that happens, or, you know, sometimes a really extreme situation can just carry you into that presence. You're not thinking about things. You're not you know, you're not analysing it in your head, you're not scared, you're just there, and you're dealing with what is right in front of you, fully present, fully within yourself. And it's incredibly powerful. It's a really empowering experience, and it's like you're rising to meet the challenge, but in a way that you've never done before. So it's empowering. It's really wonderful. And then actually taking that practice from the extreme situation into all parts of your life, then you've got that calm with you always, and you can be the calm in the eye of the storm, no matter whether it's your kids fighting or squabbling, or it's your husband having difficulties, or, you know, there's arguments in your extended family, whatever relationship dramas are happening, it's still possible to connect with that calm and deal with it from a different space.
So I know what you're talking about. I have had that experience, and many of it has been at your prompting. Knowing that there are a lot of parents out there now who are going to be stepping into the unknown over the next few weeks, few months, who knows. What would you suggest? How would you speak to them to help them bring awareness to what they're moving into, so that they can move into it with a greater sense of peace and calm, and learn through this experience so they can come out the other end feeling calmer and more peaceful and more like the parent they actually want to be, rather than the screaming, messy drama queen, or for want of a better word, that perhaps you can really easily step into, because you have so many other outside forces playing on you at the moment. Because certainly everybody's going to be feeling financial stress. Certainly there's fear about, you know, how this all unfolds, and that then impacts how you are as a parent, just even though it's got nothing to do with your kids. So to speak to one of those parents, where would you suggest they start?
Well, I think there are really two things that I found were most valuable. And one of those is that experience of presence. And you can tap into that when things are extreme, but you can also tap into that just as an everyday practice. So, for example, you can use it as a form of meditation, just to take a few moments to take your focus away from whatever's out there and take it within, and just notice the energy in your body, like a tingling sensation or an aliveness. You know, you can focus on your breath if that helps. You can just turn the focus to whatever inside you, whatever feelings, whatever energy flow, your heartbeat, your breath, anything that takes you away from your thoughts, essentially. The focus has to come away from your thoughts. Don't try and, you know, suppress them or anything, but just shift the focus within to something else. And practice that. I actually used to practice it when I went for a walk. You can do it walking around the block, or walking anywhere around the backyard if you need to, just to move and focus inwards rather than focusing on your thoughts or anything else. And any amount of that practice in a day is wonderful. Any amount, any sort of meditation. It seems like in these sort of circumstances, anything you do to disengage from out there and disengage from all the thinking about it is going to be the best time you can spend. So that's the first thing. And then the other tool that has stood the test of time and has really been there with me every single day for probably at least the last 10 years is the ability to question your thinking. Yeah. So this is the practice that I learned from Byron Katie. She calls it the work, and it's 4 simple questions that you can use to question any thought that's bringing stress into your life. So that includes thoughts about your children, whether they shouldn't be doing this or they shouldn't be doing that, or they shouldn't be screaming, or they shouldn't be hitting you, or they shouldn't be fighting with each other, or they should be doing more schoolwork. All those sort of thoughts about your children you can bring to this practice. You can use it to question your fears. So you can use it to question thoughts like, I'm going to catch this virus and die, or my family's going to suffer, or we're going to be broke and we'll be destitute, or I'm going to go mad if I'm cooped up here any longer. You know, all of those sort of thoughts, which are going to bring intense stress into your life. You can write them down, and you can use this practice to question them. And it is the most liberating thing you will ever do if you actually use it. I have taught it to lots and lots of people, and it's just a miracle worker. You know, when it's used with willingness and openness, the answers come from within you. So it's not somebody telling you how you should think or how you should be or what you should do. It's a practice for getting the answers to any sort of problem or stressful situation from the deepest place within you. So that's really something that I have used daily and continue to do so, and has really become fully sort of integrated into the way I function in everyday life. Yeah.
Because I've certainly done that practice with you. Certainly done that practice with you a few times when I've been having my my challenging days and times. So, you know, some of them face to face, some of them long distance. So it is a powerful practice, and it really does make a difference, and can really tap in to understand just how powerful and wise we are within ourselves from that practice. So fabulous tips. How did you integrate them into your life? Because obviously we hear about a lot of different practices and a lot of different things that we can do, but having them or doing them or remembering them often enough to become habit forming can be another challenge in and of itself. So how did you actually go about ensuring that you brought those practices into your life in more and more and more and more situations, because obviously you probably started with particular situations and the stress of that triggered you. How did you then go about integrating those two practices into your everyday life?
Well, it wasn't as if I actually needed a lot of motivation, because I found the challenges just kept coming. So you sort of, one goes and passes and then something else comes, and you're thrown into another drama. You know, your child develops anxiety, or your husband gets depressed, or you have financial difficulties, or you have fears coming up, and all of those things have happened, you know, in my journey. And so there's another thing that's coming up that's, you know, driving you nuts. You know, you think, how can I fix this? How am I going to survive this? What am I going to do? And then you remember, oh, that's right, I've got this tool I can use. I can write stuff down and I can ask these questions. Yeah. And it's like, once you've done it once you've done it twice, once you've done it over a period of time and you've seen the change and you've felt the difference and you found the greater calm, then when the next challenge comes along, you remember faster. It's like, oh, that's right. Oh yeah, I've been pulled into this drama again, and now I remember what I can do. Yeah. And now I remember that I've got books I can read about this, or I can watch videos about it, or I can talk to a friend who knows about this, and I can use these tools to bring me a different perspective on this. Yeah. Because it's not about fixing a problem, it's about shifting your thinking. It's about shifting your perspective, so you're thinking about it differently. And when you're thinking about it differently, things change, you know, and you're more able to find that calmness, and you're more able to see how things, you know, are going to, you can find a way through the most difficult problems when you have these tools. So basically they became integrated into my life because I needed them.
Life was just kept throwing you challenges.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, there was really not much opportunity to get complacent, because there's something else, you know, comes up, and it's just another opportunity. That's how I see it now. Yeah. It's like, oh, here we go. This is another opportunity for me to get clear of all of these old ways of thinking, all these old patterns, all these old beliefs that no longer serve me, that limit me, that create suffering in my life. I can get a new, fresh perspective, and I know how to get there. So it's really easy now to find that in myself because I've practiced it, but only because I've had to.
So again, I mean, and I love what you bring. I love your presence. I know that whenever I'm actually physically in your presence, there's such a calm with you that is actually almost a little bit contagious. So it's really lovely. And I've been saying to a number of people that I know lately that we have been preparing for these times for a long time. So the things that we've been using and practicing, which have been seen as probably a little bit left of field, you know, they're not the mainstream, they're not the way people normally approach or live or deal with. So now is our time to shine a light. So given the current circumstances and you know, if you're on social media at all, and I don't actually watch the TV media, but social media is certainly somewhere I am. You can see evidence of the panic and the fear. So my question now is, how are you being at this time? Because obviously none of us are exempt from the potentials of what's going on and the chaos that pretty much the world has been thrown into. But how are you being in this moment? And how has your practice helped you to be where you are?
Well, it's another one of those reminders, another opportunity to use these tools that I've been using for a long time now, and to step up the game, if you like. So to pull attention further within myself, to go deeper into that experience of presence, to notice when my thoughts are running off into the future, because this is probably what's happening to everybody. It's certainly happening to me. You know, you wake up in the morning and the fearful thoughts about the future come in really fast, you know, and you turn on any sort of social media, anything, it's all there. Fears about the future. So the opportunity there for me has been to notice my own fears, to notice my own stressful thoughts, and to come back into presence and to live in the now and to question all those fears. And it's always possible to go deeper with this. And I'm finding that actually it's a really precious opportunity to sit quietly with a cup of tea and notice what is arising within me, within my thoughts, and to work with that. So things have slowed down, and it's like, well, here's the time to do this work. It's like there's a whole lot of things you can't do, but you can always do that focus within. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just doing more of it, and I'm feeling good.
Yeah, fabulous. Yeah, likewise. You know, you have our moments, but you know, move through them really quickly and come out the other side with a deeper sense of calm and clarity, and you know, back to now, back to what's right in front of me. So people that have watched this, if somebody's interested in connecting in with you and learning more about your techniques, or perhaps having you assist them to get started, how do they best get in touch with you? And I'll put links for anything that you have at the end of this video, so that's easy to find. But if you can just share how people can connect in with you and benefit from your wisdom.
I have a website, www.freyadawson.com.au, and there's lots of articles on there which are related to parenting and different situations. So, you know, if you're worried about your kids playing too many video games, or you're dealing with kids who have these angry outbursts, or you've got teenagers you feel disconnected from, all sorts of different issues are dealt with in articles on my website. You can also get my book there, Joyful Parenting, in which I go through in detail about connecting with presence, listening to your children in presence, doing the work of questioning your thinking, solving problems with your children, and sorting all the family problems out without having to use any sort of discipline or punishments or anything like that. So that's all covered in my book. And I have a course, the Joyful Parenting course, which is based on the book. And I have run that as a live online course in the past, but I'm actually going to very soon release it as an online course that you can do at your own pace.
Okay.
So the details of that will be also on my website when that's ready. So yep, find me on the website, and I also offer one-to-one sessions where I can work through whatever particular issues are coming up for you and help you get to that place of peaceful, calm, new perspectives. So yeah, those are the things that I have to offer at the moment.
That's fabulous. And, you know, I'm sure there's going to be lots of people out there that get a sense of the calm that comes through you and are going to want to have a piece of that. So I will put up those links at the end of this video. So if you're wanting to connect in with Freya and and make use of the techniques and learn from Freya's experience. Her boys are gorgeous, and I have seen intense moments with Freya and her boys and how she's managed, and yeah, she's an inspiration. So I can personally recommend Freya's work. So we'll connect you in with Freya, however works best for you. So we'll put those links in. So thank you so much, Freya, for giving up some of your time.
I just want to mention, Pip, I also have a Facebook page and a Facebook group where I give, you know, information, share information and articles and stuff. So that's another avenue people can use if that's easiest for them.
Okay. One of the other things we actually haven't really talked about is that you're also an unschooler. So lots of parents kind of bringing their kids home and looking at feeling like they have to suddenly be turned into their local school. Will be stressing about that as well. So Freya has a wealth of experience and wisdom in regards to educating your children. And as you've seen, you know, Freya's an incredibly intelligent lady. As she said earlier, she's got a list of degrees down there. So, you know, there's certainly nothing fly by night about Freya. There's a very groundedness, there's an understanding and a depth of knowledge there that's just invaluable. So thank you again, Freya, and really appreciate you spending your time with me and sharing your wisdom. And if you just stay on the line, I'll actually just get more details from you when we stop the recording. So thanks again.
Thank you, Pip. Lovely to talk to you.
You too.